Welcome to Encore with me, Olivia Salazar-Winspear. Coming up, we're meeting performer and director Fiona Shaw, who will tell us about how she's putting a 200-year-old poem on the stage. We take a fresh look at Renaissance painting with some help from an Italian technology whiz, and we'll be hearing about the Anglo-French television series that's making a splash on both sides of the channel. First though, let's go and meet our guest. Fiona, thanks so much for being with us.
Pleasure.
Now, just to introduce you, you're an actor of the stage and screen, a director of plays and opera, but you're in Paris right now for poetry.
Yes, we're doing Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which is a poem about the sea.
Now, this is a poem, like you say, not a play. That must be quite different bringing that to the stage. Or how do you approach that?
Well, poetry we associate with school, but actually it's the most intense way of telling a story. And this is a rhyme, so it has a childlike rhyme, but it has a very, very dark, exciting story about a man who gets lost at sea and everybody dies around him. So it is very theatrical.
Okay, so there is some drama to work with as a performer.
I think actually a lot of great drama has poetry in it because it intensifies reality. It elevates it. So, you know, some of the great, I mean, Molière has a sort of poetry in it because even though it's prose, it's heightened. And really that's what the theatre is there, to show us heightenedness and high emotion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the best way to get an idea of what this is about and what it looks like is to take a look at a clip. Now, this is the moment when the mariner meets the albatross.
In mist or cloud, on mast or shroud, it perched for vespers 9, whilst all the night through fog smoke white glimmered the white moonshine.
When you read the text on its own, when you don't see it performed, you get this overwhelming sense of loneliness, I think, the mariner all alone on his ship, but you weren't alone on stage. Can you explain how you came to that decision with the director?
Well, it's a very good poem because there are two people. There's an ancient mariner who tells this young wedding guest a story that he has to tell him. So whenever there's two, it's very good if you have two. And Daniel, who dances the albatross, but also the wedding guest, he sometimes becomes the mariner and I'm sometimes become the mariner. So it's a very good duo and it keeps shifting. And these shifts add a sort of excitement to the evening. But having a dancer means that the beauty of the poem has a chance to take wing and fly. And it's been a very interesting exercise having Daniel.
Now, speaking of the albatross, who Daniel embodies sometimes, this poem has given us the gift to the English language, which is this phrase, to have an albatross around one's neck.
Yes.
Could you elaborate slightly on how that comes up in the poem and how it's been culturally assimilated into our language?
Well, strangely, at the time that Coleridge was writing the poem, he went for a walk with William Wordsworth, a very famous poet, who had read a book about the symbolic nature of some animals. So they landed on this idea of an albatross having a sort of heightened symbolic nature. And it does seem to, because as you say, it survived in the language. We talk about having an albatross like a sort of punishment around your neck. And it's sort of the karma of something, that your sin, he kills the albatross in the poem and the albatross is hung around his neck. So he's punished by having to carry it.
It's a burden.
Yeah, it's a burden. And and we never know why he kills the albatross. He just does it. It seems to be something he did, like many bad things we do. We do them carelessly and we don't know why we've done them. And he kills it and then he doesn't even regret it. But slowly the nature turns against him. Storms come and then he gets becalmed. And then the men begin to die around him.
And he's haunted by that and other things.
Yeah.
Now, I just wanted to take a little look at your career. We're talking about a 200-year-old poem here, so it's a historical piece. You're very well known, critically acclaimed for classical theatre, Greek theatre. But you also dabble in very contemporary stuff like the Harry Potter films, True Blood on television. How do you approach a modern text, something set in the present day? Is that a particular challenge?
Well, to me, they're all the same. You know, I find Medea very modern, so I don't see any difference. Or I played Richard II in Paris some years ago. It seemed a very modern thing to do. So I would never want to do classical things in the sense of making them old-fashioned. So they're very similar. But in the modern text, I've just recently done a television series called True Blood in America. And that was very like a classical situation because I played a witch who spoke Latin a lot. So these games between the old and the new, I think, are great fun.
It's quite Shakespearean, that one, isn't it?
Yeah,
a big ensemble cast
is.
and everything. OK, well, we're going to take a look at a report now that actually shows us some paintings that have been jazzed up and made into digital moving canvases. Right. It's a young Italian animator who's been breathing new life into old images by creating an online animated gallery. Claire Murphy has more.
What happens when artistic masterpieces meet digital animation? Fans of this 9-minute internet sensation say the video takes over 100 historic paintings, heightening their emotion further by manipulating the subjects into action. It took a young Italian filmmaker 5 months to take images of the art, dating from the Renaissance to the end of the 19th century, and create the finished compilation using specific software. Entitled Beauty, it's a meditation on the cycle of existence and how youth inevitably gives way to decay. The results are startling. The grey horse of Jericho riven with fear in a storm. All human feelings are there. Love, grief, and desire. A tear falls. Terror as the end is nigh. All accomplished on computer.
My intention was to make a reflection about the human emotion, the challenge of describe the most important emotion that everyone can feel in their life.
His inspiration was the realism of the Italian painters of the 15th and 16th centuries, masters like Caravaggio or Titian. Here's the 1538 oil painting Venus of Urbino. Here it is in motion online. The creator paying tribute to the originals and sharing it with us.
Now, in other news, Scarlett Johansson will no longer be working with the charity Oxfam. She's recently come in for criticism for working with an Israeli company which operates in the West Bank. Oxfam International opposes all trade from Israeli settlements, saying they violate Palestinian human rights. Johansson had been ambassador and fundraiser for Oxfam for 8 years. Next, we're taking a look at the TV show that's got viewers on the edge of their seats in France and the UK. The Tunnel is a police detective drama that takes place in and around the Channel Tunnel. It boasts a bilingual French and English cast, and its storyline swings between the two countries. Our correspondents in London went to find out more.
Like every good whodunit, this one starts with a murder. A body is found in the Channel Tunnel, right in the middle where Britain meets France.
So this is a joint investigation now, is it? Let's go to work then.
Two investigators, one French, the other British, are on the hunt for a determined serial killer. In the calmer surroundings of Big Ben, we meet the show's English lead, played by the actor Stephen Dillane. The opportunity to work with the French director Dominique Moll was a big draw.
I liked the idea of being involved in something which had a predominantly French aesthetic. It's more to do with trusting that an audience is engaged emotionally and letting things play out for them rather than hitting them with plot points.
How's it all going with your French counterpart?
Yeah.
The series plays on the culture clash between Britain and France, but for Stephen Dillane, a largely British crew meant few surprises while filming.
I think I'd hoped for more in a way. I'd sort of hoped that we were all going to stop for lunch for a couple of hours and drink wine at lunchtime, and that didn't happen.
This is the Totally Serialised Festival, an annual event at the Institut Français and an important gathering for industry professionals. The series' lead writer explains some of the linguistic challenges involved.
The main thing for us was translating anything that was idiomatic or very, very sort of specific to slang within those countries. For example, at the beginning, I think one of the characters says, voilà les gros beef, and we were kind of, should we use that? Do French people still say that? We don't know. And so often we'd have to kind of check.
Co-productions are also a big theme here. This series was developed on both sides of the channel and is being shown in both countries.
Living in fear of the We have resisted at Kudos getting involved in many European productions because often they are just trying to satisfy a financial requirement to make things work, and there's no creative editorial behind it. This one was done for all the right reasons.
The series aired in France in the autumn. Each episode has attracted more than 1 million viewers. A decision on a second series is expected in the next few weeks.
Wow, so it's a great example of the French and the English working together on something creative. Now, Fiona, these cross-cultural collaborations are becoming more and more popular. If you had carte blanche and you could go and work anywhere in the world with anyone, do you have any preferences?
Well, I would work in France. I think that the fantastic thing about French audiences is that they are very attuned to everything from outside. And whenever I've worked in France, the audience are very plentiful. And I think we in England should be much more receptive, actually, to French pieces of work. So I think this tunnel is a wonderful idea, and I hope it'll breed lots more. So yes.
So maybe we'll see you in a bilingual production sometime
soon. Yes, or the second
soon.
series of the tunnel.
Well, get the phone number.
Not of the dead body, I hope.
Okay. Well, before we go, we're going to take a look at some of Joan Fontcuberta's photographs. The Spanish artist has currently got a show at the Maison de la Photo here in Paris. But before then, thank you, Fiona Shaw, for being with us.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you at home for watching. Do keep in touch on our Twitter feed, Encore at France 24, and we'll see you next time.